Perfect. Welcome to tonight's information session for the Business and Professional Coaching Certificate Program. I know that some people signed up because they were interested in other programs that we offer. So Transformation Edge Business Coach Institute, we offer a portfolio of coach training opportunities, some that are for internal or intact groups inside of an organization, some that are specific just to leaders, and some that are specific to those that want to become professionally certified as coaches. And that's the one that we're going to be talking about tonight. This is our flagship program, actually. It's the longest program that we have, and it is a level 2 ICF program. We'll talk more about what that means a little bit later. But it's important to know that this is an accredited program by the International Coaching Federation. And this program positions those that graduate from it to become members of ICF and also credentialed by ICF. So it is a full-bodied program. So just a little bit of information about us, and then we'll find out who's in the room and get a little information about you. The program is probably, as far as coach training programs go, one of the most staffed programs, to be honest. And that is because we create a full-bodied experience. It's very comprehensive. We don't just deliver coach training skills. We are a professional development program as well, a personal development program as well. So you come into this program not just to learn how to do coaching, but how to be a coach, how to become that instrument, if you will, that can facilitate transformation. And because of that, we have quite a full team that you will all get to meet at some point. So I will say that my name is Sakina Gordon-Jones, and I am the executive director of the program, a master certified coach by ICF credentialing. But I also spend a lot of time with leadership development. And leadership development is really a lot about human development. So the idea that we are born leaders, I think we all know now, is a myth, right? We can become leaders. And I actually believe that we all need to think of ourselves as leaders, because someone has to lead your life, and you shouldn't turn that over to someone else. So the aspects of leadership should be something that we're all caring about. In fact, there's a book out there that says leadership is everybody's business. And I really espouse that as well. So you'll see there's a mix of personal, human, professional development included in this program for that reason. We have a team of facilitators. Each time this program is run, there'll be at least 2 facilitators in the program. And each of the facilitators are ICF credentialed coaches as well. In fact, they're coaching practitioners. So they're not just academics around coaching. They actually run a coaching business as well, either inside an organization or as a standalone. So you'll have people who don't just teach theory, but actually share practical insights and practical experiences as you go through the program. We have additional facilitators because it's a 2-day program. It's done usually on a weekend, Friday, Saturday. And so every month when we come into that program, you'll see not only the 2 lead facilitators that govern the 10 months, but you'll see someone new. And so we have, again, a team of ICF credentialed coaches, practitioners, and 1 licensed professional coach, counselor, because we all need some help. We need to make sure that we understand that coaching is a part of the helping profession, and make sure that we understand there's a gray area and how to navigate ourselves as coaches when it comes to that gray area. So that's a little bit of the teaching staff, if you will. And then we also have a coaching team that comes into the program. We have several coaches, again, all ICF credentialed, that provide mentor coaching. And we believe that in our program, one of the things that makes it different is that every person that participates in the program gets a coach. The reason for that is we believe coaching is best understood when it's experienced. And so you can get the theory, you can practice, but when you are coached by a non-directive coach, client-centered coach, I think it makes all the difference, and you'll see that. So everybody gets a coach. So we have a team of coaches that are here to provide that service. And then we have alumni that not only are here tonight for the information session, but they show up throughout 10 months. Sometimes they'll be there to observe, sometimes they'll be there in supervision, but we are grateful for those that have come through the program and give back to the program. So you'll be surrounded by a community of coaches when you participate in this. It won't just be your cohort, it is all of us. So that's a little bit about who is in the program and a little bit about our signature program. We're going to spend time going a little bit deeper, but before we do that, let me just lay out what we'll do over the next 60 minutes or so. I think we just started with the introduction, but we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the field of coaching, a little more about the uniqueness of our program, and then we'll give you sort of a look inside the program, a quick look at the cadence of the program. And then our lovely alumni that are here will answer any questions or frequently asked questions that tend to show up for people that are looking at, putting themselves into a program. So that'll be the last thing that we do, is have the alumni share and then answer any questions that may come up. So let's see who's in the room tonight. And we're in multiple spaces, so we'll just have you to, raise your hand when you're speaking so we can know who it is. And just a little bit about yourself, your name, what you do if you want, or who you work for if you own your own business. What's your interest in coaching if you are here to learn about it? What's your interest in coaching if you're a practitioner of it? And what is one thing that you'd like to take away from our time tonight? So Tiffany, why don't you go first since you're co-hosting with me?
Absolutely. So my name is Tiffany Sturdivant. My company is Tiffany Sturdivant Coaching and Consulting. Several interests in coaching, but two of my main points is leadership development and also diversity, equity, and inclusion coaching. And one of the things that I desire.
Uh-oh, I think you froze, Tiffany. Is that a freezing for everybody? Thumbs up if she's frozen for you. Okay. So why don't we just jump and Tiffany will come back to us. So whoever else wants to jump in and start.
I will jump in. So my name is William Thornton. I am a Department of Army civilian. Have been federal service for over 40 years. My interest is because I am the senior civilian at our organization, and I have a mixed bag of co-workers and partners within our organization, to include active duty, DoD civilians, and contractors. I have the role of actually being a mentor and a coach to a lot of our folks for personal development as well as career development and such. So my organization thought it would be nice if I came to a program, since I actually fill that role within our organization. Plus, my background is I was a track and field coach forever, which is a little bit different, but you kind of get the same, some of the same, the driving factors and things out of that and stuff. So I'm really hoping to get out of this particular session how the program is laid out, over the next 10 months and what really to expect.
Awesome. Thank you,
And
William.
it's great to see everyone.
Thanks, William. That's lovely. We will do our best to make sure that you get your takeaway. All right. Maria, you want to go next?
Sure. So I am Maria Wisdom, and I'll be talking about this later, I'm sure. I'm an alumni of the program 2019, and I am now a PCC coach, thanks to Sakina and many, many, many coaches who are awesome. I work at Duke University, and as I will explain a bit later, coaching absolutely foundational to everything I do at Duke. Even when I'm not actively coaching, I'm trying my best to think as a coach and show up as a coach, and it has been absolutely transformational for me. And so, takeaway from the session, I'm keen to see how the program has evolved and changed since I last participated, and I'm keen to hear about participants' questions and to be helpful. So I guess those are my takeaways.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
I'm also keen for you to share some of what you've done, because that's how we grow in our coaching.
Of course, happy to do it.
Awesome. All right, Tanika, how about you?
Sure, let me make sure I'm unmuted. So I am Tanika Harrison, and I'm a recent graduate of Sakina's program. I don't think has been a month yet, so very recent alumni of the program, and still all smiles. I am also a new business owner. So I launched my executive and leadership coaching business back in February of this year. So, just about 6 months in business. But for me, my coaching journey, I'll say it started as a little seed that I planted over a decade ago. I kind of romanticized this plan B if things in corporate, right, didn't work out, or it just gave me something to look forward to. I had worked in high-tech supply chain, which I love, since it allowed me to solve a lot of complex problems on a daily basis. But I knew at some point that I was going to want to spend most of my time doing some mentoring and coaching and just development of folks. And so I played around in that space unofficially, internally, through the company. But I knew long-term that I was going to want to spend that dedicated time just focused on coaching. And so last fall, my plan B became my plan A. I resigned from my corporate career, and that was after 25 years in the industry. I happily retired as a vice president in supply chain at a Fortune 500 company, which not a lot of people can say. And what that allowed me to do was just really spend that 100% focused time on learning how to be a good coach. And I was able to find Sakina's program both online as well as through word of mouth from some former graduates as well. So I am here to answer any questions from folks, especially being that I am one of the most recent graduates. So happy to be here.
Very nice. Thank you, and thanks for being here.
Of course.
And Tiffany, do you want to wrap up your section? You left us all hanging.
I think I was talking about my why, and then my computer absolutely shut down, like completely. But like one of the things that I desire to take away from this session, again, is to be a source of information, and really answer any questions that we have. I don't think I shared my why, and so, or how I started. It really started through helping patients with multiple sclerosis deal with how they can overcome their debilitating disease, and answering the question, what can I do, instead of what can't I do?
That's powerful. Wow, Tiffany, as you said that, and thank you all for sharing, we're going to move into this, but I think it speaks again to the heart of what coaching is, what you just said. And there was a recent commercial, I think it was it probably was running parallel to the Olympics commercial. And it was a young lady, a young girl, I guess, that was challenged with some physical disabilities, I believe. And the whole message of the commercial was, you tell me that I can't do this, so I don't. You tell me that I can't be in social groups, so I'm not. And it just goes on with all the things that messages that she's gotten because of her disability. But what she then said was, but if you tell me that I can, I will. And it just shows her, going to school, doing a job, like all the things, right? Sports, because she could. And I think that's really what's at the heart of coaching, is reminding people what they can do, who they can be, what could be different if they showed up differently. And I think the power for humanity is in not what we can't do, but what we can do to be better and to create better experiences all around us, in our organizations, in the military, in our healthcare systems, in our education systems, in our homes, right? If we know we can, then we will. And I think that's what coaching is about. So thanks for that, Tiffany.
Absolutely. Thank you for just rounding that off so nicely.
Yeah. I mean, we're in this for good. And so I'm going to also turn it back over to you, Tiffany, as we talk about ICF at a glance. So why are we talking about ICF? So we're here to talk about a coach training program, and coaching is an unregulated field right now. If I were to go to the grocery store and get on the bullhorn and said, would all the coaches come up to the register? I guarantee you that there would be probably 50 people coming up to the register saying that they are a coach. Because I think coaching is, quote unquote, somebody said this to me, coaching is the sexy thing today, right? So everybody wants to be the coach. And because there's no real regulation, everybody can, right? They put it on their cars, or they say that I am. And I think it's good and not so good. It's good that people are saying, hey, I want to be able to help. I want to help people win. But not good in the sense that if you're not careful, if you're not trained, you can actually harm, even though what you want to do is good, right? So it's kind of saying, I want to be a healer, but not going to medical school, right? It's great that you want to heal people, but you're going to probably do something that's going to harm them, right? Because you haven't been trained. And I think that's the same is true for coaching. And so ICF is an agency, it's a nonprofit that basically has set itself up to help to oversee and regulate the profession of coaching. And it does that by helping us to understand, what is it that a coach does? What do they do when they're doing it really well? So we have a set of competencies. What are the things that we have to be mindful of so that we don't bring harm? And so we have a set of ethics that we stand by. And what does it mean to show up in different spaces and bring what you bring in a way that actually helps to expand capacity and bring growth to others and to organizations? And so it is a full-bodied organization that allows us to look at that no matter where we are in the world. So it's a global entity. Its arms are far-reaching, and it is what has provided us with some stability in the profession, because they've done a lot of educating around what is coaching, what should it look like, what does a person doing this really well provide you. And because of that, we now have some standards. And so ICF coaches really are the folks that will show up and avail themselves of coaching at the highest level, right? So they call it the gold standard. And because it's been proven now over years, I think ICF is 30, maybe this is their 36th year, but it's been proven to the point that our federal government, for example, will not hire coaches unless they are ICF credentialed coaches. And we have lots of Fortune 100 companies who hire coaches and pay them a very good salary, but they also expect and require that they're ICF credentialed coaches. And I think as as we spread our arms throughout the globe around coaching, no matter where in the world you are, this idea of having a standard and a set of expectations has helped the profession to become more stable and the coaches to become more proficient. So ICF also says if we're going to develop coaches, let's make sure we have a standard of how we do that as well. And so they accredit programs, because you might spend thousands of dollars going to a program where you think that you're learning about coaching, but you're learning something else. And it's maybe playing in that gray area. There's so many programs, unfortunately, like that. And so what ICF has been able to do and educate everyone and saying, listen, what we've done is we've looked at programs to ensure that what they're training and how they're developing coaches will meet the gold standard. And those are the programs that we will accredit. And so the program that we're talking about tonight is a accredited program with ICF. And that's an important factor for you as you think about what program you might join. And now I'm going to just quickly have Tiffany share with us some stats that are important. You'll notice on this sheet that there are 6 different columns, if you will. And that's because ICF a couple of years ago, in fact, it was 2019, I believe, when they recognized that for them to be really ethical, they had to not be responsible for everything that they were, sort of stamping, right? It's almost like I'm baking the cookies and I'm going to tell you how good the cookies are. Well, you need somebody else that's probably not baking the cookies to make sure that they're looking at the ingredients you're using and tasting it to, say, right? And so what they did was they said, well, we need to reorganize ourselves and still have an umbrella organization, but have distinct organizations underneath that have their own leadership, their own board, so that we can have some external viewpoints into what we do. And so it is now referred to as the family, right? The ICF family. And what you see here is there is actually a separate organization that's ICF Coaching Education. There is a separate organization that's ICF Coaching and Organizations, Credentials and Standards, a foundation, professional coaches, and a Thought Leadership Institute. Now, they are not like fighting cousins. They do talk with each other and they support each other, but they also have distinct views and distinct leadership so that they can also challenge each other and make each other better. As we look at this one ICF broken down. So that's what you're looking at here. And then I'm going to ask Tiffany to just kind of share some stats, current stats with ICF.
Absolutely. So as it relates to ICF credentialing, we'll start there first. Currently, there are 52% of individuals credentialed as an associate certified coach. And that would be 27,000, over 27,000 members. Currently, we have 44% of the members credentialed as professional certified coaches. So that's the second level of credentialing. And that's at over 23,000. And we have 4% at the master certified level, which is over 2,300 currently. Also, as far as chapters are concerned, we also have 142 chapters in more than 99 countries. So I think that's absolutely amazing there. Currently, we have over 53,000 coaches in 143 countries and territories who hold one of those 3 ICF credentials that I just mentioned.
Thank you for that. I think that's
Did Sakina freeze or?
Yes, she froze for me as well.
Okay.
We were at 5746. We're higher than that. But what hasn't grown is the number of, or the percentage of coaches that are, for example, at the MCC level. And I think that's one of those indicators, for example, that I'm watching, because what it suggests is that these are coaches who continue to learn
I think what she was going to say, like, these are coaches that
Fine.
continue. There she goes. All right,
Did I
Sakina,
go out?
yes, can you repeat what you just mentioned?
Yeah, I was saying that it's important. Like I noticed that the number is 4%. Did I get that right, Tiffany? Was it 4% at the master coach level?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that number hasn't changed. That percentage number hasn't changed in 3 years, 2019, 2021, 22, 23, in 5 years. And that is not good, right? Because we want to see people growing into more proficiency around this. What has changed, and I'm happy to see, is the number of coaches that are at the PCC level. So that means we are growing, and we have to continue to nurture the field and nurture the coaches so that we can grow our proficiency and deliver even better service to our clients. The number of chapters is also growing, and that's really important because it means what we said earlier is that no matter where you are in the world, you can be coached, you can have a coach, and you can be a coach. And that's an important factor if we see it that it serves humanity flourishing.
Sakina, can I just add something there about no matter where you are in the world? So I can remember last year and had the opportunity to do leadership coaching and training for a major organization. And I was going actually by myself to do this, but on behalf of another organization, I reached out to Sakina and I was like, I'm going to be out here in Singapore. Do you have any contacts out there? And she most certainly did. So, that was a way for me to, not necessarily be out there on my own, but, also have another contact. So that just goes to show how wide the coaching lens is that we have.
That's beautiful. And can I just say too, as we're going through the rest of these slides, we're going to talk more about the program. Don't wait for the end to ask your questions. If there are questions that pop up, let's answer them. It's a small group, so let's just make sure that everybody gets what they need. All right, so Tiffany has already gone through this, and you see what I was saying, Tiffany, that 4% still here. So we'll continue.
Can I interject for a second, Sakina?
Yeah.
I will simply say, as somebody who, as Sakina knows, very recently got her PCC, I am so exhausted at the thought of going for the MCC. Makes me weak in the knees now, and maybe there should be a survey of coach fatigue post PCC. It is a rigorous process, which is a good thing.
I'm so glad you jumped in and said that because you are right. You are right. It is a rigorous process. And because you said that, it made me even think I was eligible for MCC and didn't go for it for years just because the thought of going through everything that I needed to do to make that happen, I just couldn't find the time or the energy around it. So that is actually a very good point. Thank you for bringing it up. It is a rigorous process.
Because just picture that 43% all curled up in the fetal position. Not for me.
It is. So that brings us, with this new idea of what can we do, right? And that may be something that some of us need to think about, right, for the profession. So thank you. All right, really quickly, let's see if there are any trends. Tiffany, if you have any that you want to bring in here, I think top 5 things. Lots of evidence-based work going on around coaching. A few years ago, Harvard gave a grant to the McLean School of Medicine to focus on evidence-based coaching and the science of coaching. They have done so well now that they are profitable on their own. And they have become global in their reach. And so much is happening there. One of the things that I think I would say I saw them move the needle on was coaching within healthcare. And they actually have now a sub-practice that's just about around coaching with healthcare. And of course, it's a school of medicine, so you'd like to see that happen. But I think the amount of papers that are being produced now that are going through the IRB, it's really astounding what they're finding. And I think that gives all of us some hope of what's possible for the betterment, again, of mankind. So ICF also gave them a grant a few years ago. And so I think they have done well with what they've received in helping all of us um, to just think of coaching better. In fact, one of the definitions of coaching that came out of the Institute of Coaching that I have really gravitated to is that coaching facilitates neuroplasticity. And they were able to say that without quincing because they did fMRI studies and they worked with doctors that did these studies and had literally, samples of subjects that they put through vision-based coaching and that had more directive coaching, the type that we get when people are focused on our performance. And they were able to watch and notice what happens in the brain and track and follow these people to see how well they achieved success or didn't, how far they moved or didn't. And so, we can really hang our hats on a lot of the research that has been done by this group. So that's the Institute of Coaching. Clearly, we're having more and more coaching happening across the globe and at all levels. And I think we owe that to the democratizing of coaching brought on by organizations like these that we didn't hear about for years. And now I think almost everybody has heard of Better Up. And so these organizations, what they've done is said, let's go into organizations and provide them with a scalable offering of coaching so that they can bring people in no matter what level they are in the organization. And we do it because we can go into a huge organization with a huge number of coaches and sort of help to level the playing field to make it scalable. So Better Up, Ezra, Pluma, Tiffany, are there more that you would add to this list now?
Gosh, yes, we have Spring Health. We have Lyra. There's another one now that just escapes my mind, but that coaching sphere by way of democratization is really expansive now.
And I think that's good, right? It
Mhm.
speaks to what we started saying early in this session, that we want to see coaching reach everyone. And so the more we can do that, the better we are. University-based coaching. This is an exciting field, I think, for those that are in academia, because we've had coaching coming out of universities before, but they were certificate programs. And now we literally have degreed programs coming out. So you can go to school, your family member, your child can go to school and literally come out with a master's in coaching. And I think what that does is also say that coaching really brings something that's unique and it's something that's necessary. And if an education facility takes the time to put a program around that, to have professors around that, then it tells us that there is something valuable that's happening and coaching is here to stay, right? So, so that's a beautiful trend, I think, that's happening. And it will help us with this idea of, being unregulated and just anybody calling themselves a coach, because you're going to have to go through a program and that program needs to be accredited. And by the way, the schools that I mentioned here, they have ICF accredited programs. So it sort of lends, again, this lends to having a body that's sort of overseeing standards. Okay. Academic medical centers, love to see that within our state. We have one of those schools that, is on board and they have a internal coaching going on there. And those internal coaches are ICF credentialed coaches. And they are adding to that field of coaching and making sure that it's accessible not only to their leaders, but also to professors and now to staff and even to students, right? So I think eventually we'll see that full gamut be reached in these particular places. And then the fifth trend is there are jobs out there, folks. Like if you don't want to run your own business, there are companies that are looking for you. And I try to make it a point to go out every now and then just to see, who's hiring a coach and what are they wanting them to do and what are they paying them. And there's some really good things happening on that front. So if, tonight you feel like, oh, I'm really interested in seeing what's out there, I encourage you, go out to, Indeed or LinkedIn and look and think about those Fortune 100 companies that I mentioned and go out and see what they've got posted, right? Because they are hiring coaches at very good salaries indeed. So that's some of the trends. When we talk about coaching and this program, it's called the Business and Professional Coaching Certificate Program because, again, it's a full body program. I want to make a distinction between a coaching niche and coach training. A lot of people will go into programs that says, I'm going into a career coach training program. I'm going into a life coaching training program. And what I want to say to you is coaching, right? There's a standard, there's a set of competencies. If you're doing client-based coaching, client-centered coaching, or non-directive, these are some of the terms that we use for the kind of coaching where you don't go in telling people what to do. You go in to help people discover for themselves what their potential is, get clear on what their vision is, their purpose. How can they achieve their most meaningful goals? How can they get to being their best selves? How do they show up academically, in their programs? How do they become the PhD that's successful? How do they become the leader that's effective? If those are the kinds of things that we want to do, you're going to learn coaching skills, period. Who you coach and around what topics you coach, that's where the niches come in, right? But it shouldn't be the training. If you're a coach, you should be a coach, period. And if you choose to work with people going through transition, if you choose to work with people around wellness, well-being, health, then that's who you work with, but you're a coach. And so I want you to kind of look at these niches and say, yes, some people will say, you know what, I want to coach executives. That's who I want to coach. I have this appetite and this passion for helping leaders lead at their best, to be courageous leaders, inclusive leaders, et cetera, et cetera. And that's who I want to work with. That's perfect and fine. But get trained as a coach. Learn all the competencies of a coach. Don't just learn a framework or a tool, right? Learn how to be a coach and then coach away, right? So when you come through this program, you will get that. You will be able to coach and you will understand the gold standard of coaching across all of the competencies. And we will support you wherever you decide to target your coaching. Okay. You can see that this is 2019. I'm going to turn to Maria for Maria. How have we grown here in terms of average, if you will, income or revenue from coaching?
Right. I mean, I was really skimming quickly over the report. I do remember the average amount, and this was 2023, I guess, or I think it was from the 2022 survey. It's inched up. It's 58. I remember that. And then there was also a note in there that approximately 30% of coaches were reporting an income of something like $33,000 or less. And I'm guessing it's probably part-time folks too. It didn't break down between full-time and part-time. So I think it only tells us so much, but. Yeah.
So people often ask, can you make a meaningful salary at coaching as a profession? And I think there are enough coaches that are making a meaningful and even a great salary for this, that again, it depends, to what Maria just said, it depends on the factors around your coaching. Are you going all in on this full time? Because the idea of, I'm going to leave my 6-figure job and I'm going to work with 3 clients and sit on my porch and be at the beach, and I want to make what I was making. I mean, maybe not, right? But if you put in 60 to 70 to 80 hours on that job that you were on, making those 6 figures, if you put 60 to 80 hours in coaching, you probably will make those same 6 figures or more. So there really are some factors to consider about who you're coaching, how much you're putting into it, and so where you're doing the coaching also matters. But yeah, I think that you can, in fact, make a meaningful salary if that is what you're choosing to do. All right. All right, a little bit about our program now, more specifics, and I'm just going to fill this all out. And I mentioned earlier that it's a full body program. Let me just give you a little bit of what you get in the program. So first, it's a cohort-based program. I think this is probably one of the best factors of the program. It's that we don't have, you come into the program, you're not sitting in a classroom where every student, is on his own. This program is really about who you're with. And I think who you're with helps to strengthen what you get as an experience in this program. We learn and grow sometimes based on who we're in community with, right? And our community can either strengthen us or weaken us. And I think what we do as facilitators and coaches, all of that group that I mentioned to you in the beginning that are here to support you, what we do is come alongside of you to help create an environment in which this cohort can strengthen each other, right? And that is exactly what happens. So not only will you learn together and every month find yourself getting more connected to your cohort members, but you also are going to do some work together, right? You're going to do some coaching together, and you're going to even do some research and work on a project that's meaningful to you together. So you will grow by virtue of the people that you're with. And I like to say that we have really, really accomplished professionals that come into this program. And I'm not suggesting that they have to be a certain age or stage, because we have had retired leaders in this program, and we've had recent college grads in this program. And they have worked together in a cohort and formed meaningful relationship and helped each other to grow. And I think it's very similar to what we're experiencing in the workforce today. We have 4 generations in the workforce. And if we do it well, we actually create an environment where everyone can thrive and grow. And so I think that's what we have, is a microcosm of that in the program. We have participants in the program that are from everywhere. We used to do this strictly in person, and therefore we had people that were from North Carolina, which is where we hail, and maybe some surrounding states. But we've had an opportunity now to go virtual, and it's allowed us to have participants that are from the West Coast to the East Coast, from the North to the South, and it's made the program even richer. And I will dare say that even when we were in person and we had folks from the neighboring states, we had attracted enough people from outside of our country that we had expats that took our program and then would go back to their country. And so, to Tiffany's point earlier, we have connections literally, I think, on every single continent, right, where someone has participated in the program. So you never know who's going to be in your program. But I will tell you that you'll find it will be a rich experience when you do show up. I mentioned that there's peer-to-peer coaching. This is something that you'll find yourself doing, is to practice, and we practice for real. We don't do role plays, we do real plays. So you strengthen yourself as a coach, and by strengthening yourself as a coach, you're actually helping your peer to get better, and vice versa. So it's real. And then the last thing I will say is there's a pathway in this program to wherever you want to go. So if you said, I just want to come through a program and be certified so that I can do this on my job, or do this while I still work on my job, and I'm not ready to set up a business yet, then you can learn, you will practice, you will develop a practice of coaching, and you will be able to be certified at the end. If you say, I really want to stand up my own business or bring coaching at a higher level into my organization. So I really want to go all the way through and become credentialed. There's a pathway for that in the program. So our goal is to support you on the path, whatever path that is of your choosing. Okay. Now, here's one of the things that's changed. This ACTP in the middle here, that used to be the program that we were in 2020. And then in 2020, the latter part of it, we've actually become a level 2 program. That meant ICF education, that family changed a little bit. And so they said, let's put some standards in that really put some more rigor in this, similar to what you would find in a university setting. And so we adapted our program to adopt that kind of rigor and achieve the credentialing at level 2, which basically means that within that program, you can learn, apply, and perform satisfactory to earn your credential. Okay. So that's a little bit about what makes our program unique, is the fact that all of those elements that I just walked through are in the one program. And I think it's hard to find that in another program. One of the things that I neglected to mention that I will mention as I look at this slide is, for those of you that may, be in academia, and you know that there is a process or a learning pedagogy that says that it's adult learning principles. We adopt adult learning principles in our program. And that says that adults are the ones that are coming into this program and they learn differently, right, than primary school children. Adults learn by reflecting and synthesizing what they learn and applying it. And so we make sure that within the program, all of that happens. You get theory, but you have a chance to reflect individually and with your peers, to discuss it, and even to discuss external things, some case studies, and to try things out so that you can begin to see, how would this work with me? How would this work in my environment, et cetera? And then you get an opportunity to put it into practice and come back from that, because you're going to learn. Every time you do, you learn. And so that's the process that we espouse within the program. Now, I'm going to just fill this out. And Tiffany, let me see if I can get this all here. I mentioned to you, this is our signature program. It is our longest program. It is 10 months. People said, wow, 10 months is a long time. And I would say to you, this could actually be a 15-month program because of all of what we pack into it. But the reason that it is 10 months is because we don't cram the learning. The idea, again, based on adult learning principles, is that adults learn best when you chunk. Yes, that's actually a term, chunking. And so you want to give a topic, a module, if you will, and have them focus on that, practice it, learn from it, and then you come back and you add to that another chunk. And what is happening is, each of these chunks, you're starting to integrate them. And so that when you come through this program, you don't just have a tool belt with these tools that you think, I can pull this one out, pull this out. But what you've done is actually had an integrated set of learning and skills that you've developed over this period of time that allows you to show up differently, and therefore to process differently, and then therefore to behave and apply differently. And it's integrated, so it doesn't feel like it's manipulative what you end up doing as you do this work of a coach. And so that's the reason for spaced learning, which is the actual technical term, right? Is that it's spaced. So any thoughts or questions coming up for anybody around any of this so far? Tiffany, anything you want to add here or illuminate or amplify?
That's one of my favorite words. No, not at this time. Because I think the other part that you mentioned, is that even in this, we sort of extend the training or take this training to the next level by having individuals come in to even share more about these particular topics, so that you're learning from an actual SME as well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point to amplify, Tiffany, because I mentioned earlier that you're going to learn all the coaching skills, but as you can see around this wheel here, that there's a lot more than just coaching skills, right? And the part of the reason that we do that is to make sure that when you come through this program, you are not just competent in the coaching skills that you know, but you're confident in your ability to be in the coaching profession, right? Because you come through this program and you understand what the difference between team and group coaching is and how you would play in that space. You understand what it means to do vision-based coaching versus directive coaching. You understand what it means to coach your client in their context, right? How to understand and play with identity and culture as a coach. You understand what it means to coach in the space of organizations or in the space of leadership or executive. You understand what life coaching is about. So you're going to be exposed to so much more than the core competencies that you are going to come through this program and feel as confident as Tanika was when she shared, I have a business and this is what I do.
I do appreciate the fact that it is spread out over 10 months. I had the opportunity, my organization offered courses that were shorter in duration. And I'm like, 10 months, you get to learn a lot. You get to kind of let it all solve in your brain and let your mind relax with the concepts being taught to you. And then, why rush to failure,
Mm. And you also get to practice, what you learn. You have a whole month to, especially once you have your client, because, you are a coach. When you enter the program, you are a coach and you will have clients. And so as you're learning, you'll be able to use those things that you're learning to help those that you coach.
Excellent. Couldn't finish this out. I was wondering why there wasn't anything with month 6, but yeah, the science of coaching, right? Which thank goodness for our friends at the IOC, we know so much more now about the science. And so we spend time integrating that as well, because I think that the more we recognize just some basic physiological truths about coaching and about things like change and transition, that we can really help the people that we serve. I think about, William, in your community, for example, the varying transitions psychologically that a member of your community has to go through, and the recognition that the fact that they may be thinking or not thinking the same as their counterpart that hasn't experienced what they have, the fact that that is physiological, it's normal, it's natural, and that there's a way to help them to see that, I think that is so powerful, because without that kind of a lens, people think there's something wrong and they withdraw and they don't know where to go, right, to talk. So I think you're going to find that people will come looking for you because you can help them see what's right in front of them that they just couldn't distill by themselves. So this is for William, a little bit of how the program is laid out. We do right now in our hybrid format, we do a day and a half. So all day Friday, half a day on Saturday. And each month, the cadence is very similar. We do throughout the day some lectures, very, very minimal didactic work. Mostly what we're doing are vignettes where we bring in some real examples of things that are happening in the field, real examples principles of what we're doing with coaching, and we give you an opportunity to sort of conceptualize that and then think about how that might show up in your space. And so you're going to work with your partners or your cohort members. There'll be some discussions, but there's going to be a lot of experimentation. So I would say that this course has as much experiential aspects as it does didactic aspects. There has to be some didactic, right? Because you're learning. It's almost like you're learning a new language, and there will be some unlearning of some things that you've done, but that's balanced out by you putting into practice what you're learning, taking the time to experiment small steps at a time, and then figuring out how you might apply that when you come out. So our skills practice, the opportunity for you to put it all together, what you've learned in that day by coaching your peers, that's where rubber meets the road, right? You think that you've got it, you think you've conceptualized it, and then you actually sit with somebody with a real situation and you try to bring it together and coach them. And there's a lot more learning. In fact, I think the learning is amplified when you get to that point. And then we meet you every month with either supervision, which basically means you can bring what you're dealing with, what you're noticing, your concerns, your challenges, and you'll have the group and a supervisor coach help you through that. When we're not doing supervision, we're doing mentor coaching to help you actually sharpen your proficiency around the coaching competencies. And then throughout the program, you will have an opportunity to work with a group on a project, something that is important to you, a question that you want to research for the way that you see yourself using coaching, or what you want to do with coaching, or what you believe the profession needs to be thinking about or doing. So you'll find interest in the project with other members and work on that. And at the very end of the program, you'll actually share with the whole cohort what it was that you set out to learn, what you learned, and what you think that means for you or for the profession of coaching. So that's pretty much the cadence of the program. I'm going to sort of skip through this because that's pretty much what I just said. And then we mentioned that, you have this path, right? So the pathway is the education and the participation in the education. It's active participation. You cannot come and sit in the back of the classroom because you don't get to do that. Even when we're in person, we don't sit classroom style. So no one's sitting in the back of the classroom. Everybody is an active participant. Tiffany just mentioned everybody has coaching clients when they go through the program so that you can develop your competencies for real. You do a group project, you will have a personal coach, you'll have the mentor coach. All of those are necessary for you to receive certification. And if you want to move on to receiving credentialing, then you'll have to have experience, continue the experience outside of the classroom, outside of the program. The minimum for credential is 100 hours of coaching, and it requires a written exam. So everything that you do with us is in the pathway for you to get your certification and your credential. Okay. Tiffany, anything you want to add there?
Nope, that sounds complete to me.
Okay, and I see that we're joined by another one of our facilitators. There's Serena Williams. Serena, anything you want to add?
No, y'all are doing an amazing job.
Okay. All right. So this is the part of the program where we get to hear from our alumni and answer any questions actually that's had. So we will probably pepper some questions here that are frequently asked questions, but also we want to make sure that we answer questions for those of you that are in the room. So the way we like to do this is first, if you just want to share your own experience, just kind of like a summary of your experience in the program. Did it actually meet up with what I just said, or is there another story? So if so, share that and then we'll, see what questions come up. All right. So I'm going to go to Maria because I know that Tanika is fresh. It's not even a month yet, so she's going to have something. Maria, it's been a few years. So what do you want to share? Maybe Maria, you can share a little bit about your experience in the program, maybe what you took from it and how it's serving you now, 3-4 years later.
All right, I'll try to keep it concise. So I was in the last cohort, I believe, that was fully in person. So I can't speak to the experience of the more virtual format now. I will say though, our cohort was just bonded so well and so quickly. Sakina always told us we were special. We bonded better than so many other cohorts. And we would get together after. I mean, we'd be exhausted after 2 days, and then we'd go have a party at somebody's house or go out for drinks or something. So it was that kind of cohort. And I will say, I looked every month, everything was spaced a month apart, and I looked forward all month long to the next weekend. It was really great. But what Sakina described is pretty much, I believe, what I experienced. I think we had more closer to 2 full days, right, when we were in person. And yeah, and I think I really want to emphasize the power of the experiential learning as well. Every single time, well, I think we called them triads, right? We would spend a chunk of every weekend learning, sitting with 2 other people in the group, and we would spend, like, I don't remember how long it was, 90 minutes together coaching each other. And not only did we all really learn how to coach, it was amazing because that first month or 2, our coaching was quite frightening. I mean, we we were giving each other advice, and we were asking each other leading questions, and it was almost miraculous to watch. We could watch each other become better and more powerful coaches as the 10 months went on. So that was really cool. And there's nothing to bond with somebody faster than helping each other. I mean, we really got to know each other quickly. So it was fabulous. I think my situation, I think the program impacted my career more than many others, simply just because of where I happened to be at the time and what the needs at Duke have been. When I started the program, I was getting close to the end of a 3-year term position at Duke that was half funded on soft money. So it was not the most stable situation. And I had a very supportive boss, and I had supportive colleagues, and they were committed to helping me figure out like what phase 2 of my career at Duke would be, but it wasn't at all clear. And coaching, I was working as a grad student advisor, but just for humanities doctoral students in about 12 departments, because that's my background. Doing the coaching suddenly I was initially helpful to 400 graduate students. Those were my people that I could advise. Once I did the coaching, I could coach any one of our 2,500 doctoral students. I mean, that expanded right there, then how useful I could be to my organization. So I right away, I was intrigued by group coaching because, in a university, you have to operate at scale. So I designed a group coaching program that was pretty unique, I think. I think it's somewhat unique even now. And that program was so successful. I did it for 2 years. The faculty advancement office came calling, and they said, what are you doing to the grad students? You have to do it for our faculty. So that led to not 1, but 2 promotions. The most recent one was just a few weeks ago. So I'm now assistant vice provost for faculty advancement. And a big chunk of my job is coaching faculty. I run a group coaching program, and I coach, how many? I think between one-on-one and groups, I coach about 100 faculty a year. And every one of those faculty members gets between 5 and 6 contact hours from me. And now I'm also expanding my work to do more with mentoring. And it's really interesting because at a university, and stop me from going on too long, Sakina, you just get the cane and, it's one last point. There's a real need in academia for better mentors, for stronger mentoring. And, a lot of faculty have never heard of coaching, but they get mentoring and they get why it's important to be better at it. I am now applying everything I've learned as a coach to helping to train and support mentors, right? Mentoring and coaching aren't quite the same, but the overlap is stunning. And it's even led to a book I'm about to publish on mentoring. I have a whole chapter, Sakina's looked at it, a whole chapter on mentoring like a coach. And so that's in the book. So yeah, all kinds of cool things have happened for me. So thank you, Sakina.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're doing it. Tanika, why don't you go ahead and then we'll let William ask any other questions that comes up. Hopefully some of his questions are being answered. So what was your experience like, Tanika?
So for me, I'm going to co-sign on what Maria mentioned around the cohort setting. I will tell you, I think it's a differentiator, the way that you have the cohort set up. Sakina, I feel like we do find our tribes when we come together. For me, I felt safe, kind of learning and practicing and really building legitimate bonds with people that were strangers, right? When we first started the program in October. And to me, in just a matter of months, it feels like I now have this extended family. We've graduated, but we are still meeting. We literally just had a meeting last night to check in on each other and see how we're doing. And for me, what that did is it gives you this network of people who are supporting you, while you're on this journey. We get to celebrate each other's wins. Right now there's a lot of layoffs happening. We've had some impact to some of our team members. So we were able to actually give virtual hugs and also prayers for those folks as they were navigating through that. We were able to share learnings, right? What are we learning as we're going through the different parts of our coaching journey, since that's a different. But the other piece is just sharing contacts and building networks. I will tell you, one of my first paid clients came as a referral from one of my cohort team members. So even just being a resource for each other has been really instrumental with that. I think the other piece for me, I will say, Sakina, your program, it made me feel whole again. So I know at the very beginning, I mentioned that I myself was going through a life transition, right? So retiring from what I knew as my everyday work and then, going into this new world of coaching, I was second guessing that decision, right? And as I'm going through this program, I was able to build that level of confidence that I can actually become a professional coach. I can do this. And so for me, it was, kind of mapping to how I could help people discover what mattered most to them and arming them with what they needed, right, to be able to go down that path. And Takina, you mentioned, I think it was in the previous slide, just around us being matched to personal coaches. And that was another huge win for me, right? Coaches need coaches too, because life, right? Life happens. And so, just through that work with the coach, we're able to have the same experience that our clients would have, right? So we're kind of learning how to navigate through that. But what it allowed me to do, it gave me the confidence to actually launch the business, right? I said I retired in the fall. I didn't launch till February because I was getting in the way. And so working through that, coach allowed me to have enough confidence to go ahead and launch. And for me, it was that worry about, oh my gosh, that was a huge transition. What will they say? Hello, who cares, right? What they say. And it was me kind of getting in the way. And when I actually launched, it was so positive. I had so much positive feedback from that network. So really just learning how to, number one, be my own cheerleader, but two, I actually learned some new skills from my coach. And that was, how to practice meditation, how to journal, right? Some of the same tools that I can actually use with my own future clients. So there's a lot of transformation, right, through the program that I learned for myself, that Sakina, I think you just curated just such a beautiful program. So that is my experiences as one of your recent alumni.
And I so appreciate that, because I think, that's something that we can't take credit for. I think every person that comes into the program has to be willing, just like every client that comes to coaching has to be willing to do the work, to do the self work, right? We can curate the environment, but if you're willing to do that work, I think you will be able to experience that kind of transformation. So thank you. Awesome. What other questions now are coming up for you, William?
I have no questions at this time. I'm excited to get started and looking forward to the next 10 months or 10 months plus of sitting in and really understanding the art of coaching. Now, these folks who come to my office every day and sit on my couch, I can actually give them some tangible tools to go back and work on themselves with. So I appreciate the evening discussion. So
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to just pepper, since we've got a couple minutes, some frequently asked questions, and Tiffany and Serena, you do the same. But one of the things that that people ask actually has to do with what Tanika said, which is, because we do now several of our sessions virtually, how do you create a safe space virtually? Right. So how would you respond to that, um, Serena or Tiffany?
I think for me, this starts by the expectations at the beginning of the program. So I don't want to give it away, William, because I want you to have the experience, but there are certain types of activities and things that we do to ensure that we create an environment where people can, like day one, show up in an authentic, vulnerable, not in a way of oversharing, but really feeling like they can show up as themselves. And so again, I don't want to give it away, even though I want to, but we're very intentional about some of the activities and exercises that we bring into the space to create that environment.
Excellent. For me, the key word there was the intentional. Right. We're doing some things because that's our intention. We want everybody to experience that safe space. Serena, another question, virtual land. When, the thought of being, on Zoom, for example, for a day seems exhausting to folks. How do we handle that so that it's not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're conscious always, and we're even repeating the word intentionality of being at computers all day, that our eyes need breaks, that we need to stand up and not be sitting the entire time, that we need some interaction and not just to be talked to, but that there needs to be a space for people to share their own thoughts and what's coming up for them, opinions, situations, especially as you put things into practice, being able to bring what you're putting into practice into the room and continue to develop the skill sets. We also utilize the space with the breakout rooms to be able to have small groups or one-on-one conversations. Also, the rooms used for the coaching sessions when we're in here. And while I think prior to 2020, it may have been frowned upon or even not welcome to say I'm coaching someone on a teleconference, whatever app that might have been, that it is much more common now. And so that practice in the training allows you to be able to better serve your clients wherever they are or you are in the world when they can't make it in, or life happens and you need to be on the phone or on a video conference with that. So I think just making the space for all of that, letting people know it's okay to turn your camera off and get what you need, and just really attending to the person. I believe that we exemplify being a coach even as facilitators. We are always thinking of what do our clients need or our cohort members need.
Excellent. And then another question, and maybe the last one for us tonight, is people often ask, how am I going to know that I'll be comfortable in the room? People say sometimes, I practice this kind of faith. I don't know if I'll be accepted in the room, or I'm this, gender, or I'm this, expression of gender, whatever it is. I'm not sure that I'll be accepted. What's the experience like when you're in the room with those cohort members? Do people feel a sense of belonging? And if so, can you speak to that? And this one for the graduates.
I think everybody felt as though they belonged, they had a voice, they felt included. Like I said, to me, it almost felt like we were matched perfectly, even though we all came from very different backgrounds. So for me, it felt natural there. I never felt like as though anyone was excluded from anything.
Excellent. Thanks. And you were in a virtual, a hybrid cohort, right? So Maria, you were in person. Can you speak to what that felt like in the room?
Yeah, again, it was a very, very diverse group. Different ages, different races, backgrounds, all sorts of things, different professions. It's interesting because I don't think we ever had an explicit conversation about, we're going to hold everybody in unconditional positive regard or anything like that. But it was just sort of went without saying. I mean, it may sound crazy, and I think it had everything to do with Sakina and Matt and how they set the tone. And we always started with a very quite extensive check-in time every time we convened. And I think that went a long way. I think it was Sakina and Matt really did a great job holding that space for us. And it was just, I don't know, it was just, we all just knew that we could be ourselves. And I also think there's something about the folks who choose to do this. I mean, I think the people who come to this and commit to coaching, I mean, whether or not whatever this term means to you, it doesn't have to be a religious meaning, but I think it's a calling. And I think people do kind of self-select. And I think they want to be helpful to their fellow human beings. And I think there was nobody in our cohort who was going to be judging or, or diminishing somebody else. I mean, I think there was that as well. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a fantastic note for us to close on. Thank you.
Well, Sakina,
you.
may I share something just to sort of amplify Maria there is one of the reasons why I believe like it doesn't have to be explicitly stated is also because of the vulnerability that the facilitators bring into the space. So even when I was a facilitator, before I was a facilitator taking this program, the facilitators were intentional about sharing what was coming up for them. And because they did that, I believe it gave us permission to do the same. And so because of that, you just really never felt judged because you realized that in the terms that we use today, lives, right? So that's I really want to just give a kudos to Sakina and how she even sets the tone from a facilitator standpoint to ensure that people know that who you are, we see you and we accept that.
Well said. Well, I want to just honor our time tonight and thank you all because everything just flowed perfectly. I hope that we were able to give a view from both the facilitator's lens, but also from the participant lens on what this program is about. And also to give it, the viewpoint of being a accredited program. Like, so there's some rigor in here, but I think you also see that there's humanity in here. That this is about, certification, but it's also about people, right? And you can't bring something that you don't have. And so what we hope to do is to give you something so that you have something to bring of yourself as well. So I want to thank you all for spending this time this evening with us to share this, and so we can make this available for others to hear as well. And if there are any other questions, we're happy to entertain it for
Nope,
a couple
I
of
appreciate
minutes.
everyone's input
And
today,
if not,
so thank you very much.
fantastic. Thank you, William. We look forward to seeing you soon in person. All right. Any other closing thoughts? Well, then I will bid you all adieu and say, have a good evening. Stay safe. Until next time.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Good luck, William.